Good morning. I'm Steve McClafferty at the Vermont Veterans Home. I have the honor this morning of interviewing Mr. John Hansson, one of our residents here at the Veterans Home. Mr. Hansson, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, just going to go over, where you've been, what you've done, and about your military experience. So let's start off. Where were you born and where were you raised?
Well, I was born in New York. Is this being recorded? I was born in New York City, and I studied there, and I went into the Navy right out of high school. I was only 18. So it's a kind of, for an 18-year-old, it was a dramatic experience. And
Why did you choose the Navy as compared to the Army, the Air Force?
well, they had back then, this is 1950, so it's a long, long time ago.
A couple of years.
I think I'm getting old. Can that be? Can't be.
No.
They had conscription, which meant if you don't do anything when you're 18, they're going to take you in the Army. And I didn't want to be in the Army, so I joined the Navy.
Ah, good choice. Where did you do your basic training at for the Navy?
Well, they sent me to Newport, Rhode Island, which was way the hell up north, in a small naval base there. And training is about 90 days, but you're very quickly absorbed into the military realm. And I didn't mind that. I wasn't upset by being with a lot of people. That didn't bother me. And I had planned to take officers candidate school to become an ensign. Somehow that never came about, but that was my hope, to be an officer.
Yeah. And what did you end up doing instead of being an ensign?
Ensign Hansson.
That has a nice ring to it. So does Admiral Hansson has a nice ring to it too.
Well, we had an admiral aboard ship. I was on what's called a flagship. It was a heavy cruiser. In fact, there's a picture of my ship and the crew in one of the lobby areas here.
Yes.
We had 1,700 men on a heavy cruiser. That was a great ship.
Yeah. What was its name? The
Albany.
The Albany.
Yeah.
Yes.
Heavy cruiser. It was a very nice ship, very clean. And with an admiral aboard, it became a flagship, which meant that you go to all the good ports all over the world. Seriously. And so at 18, I'm still a kid. I had a chance to travel very extensively, and that was great.
What were some of the ports, since it was a flagship, that you went to?
You went to San Paulo, places like that, Naples, Paris, all the great ports that if you were a paying traveler, you'd want to go to all these places.
Yeah. What was your favorite place then?
Well, I thought Sao Paulo was interesting because it was a big modern city, competitive with a New York City, but in South America. And what's interesting is the societal characteristic of a place. Big cities, they have a lot of similarities because they attract people on an international level. So you get the kind of people who would go to New York City would go to Sao Paulo because it attracts internationalism.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
And being a big city kid, I wasn't that impressed because I came from a big city. So it wasn't like a local yokel that went to the big city for the first time.
Ah. So that was Sao Paulo is what, Brazil, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you go to Naples, Italy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How was it over there in the 50s?
Well, it was funny. I went into a store to buy some little thing, and it was like 500 lira, was a few dollars or something. And the man came outside with me, and he was dissatisfied that whatever he was asking, that's what I paid. And in Naples in particular, you don't do things that way. He comes out and you say, it's too expensive, and he says, I'll come down a little bit. And, you know, they make purchasing into a little mini theatrical event.
Ah.
It's the character of the people. They don't want, here's the money, give me, you know,
Yeah.
New York City, that's the way it is. Give me the money, and then, you know,
get out.
there you have communication, and they make it into, and other people join in who have no business at all, but they all want to comment on it, you know.
Yeah.
And you realize this is a characteristic of the people in that country, in that part of the world. They don't want something to be abrupt, but they want to make it into more of an event.
It's still true. When we visited Paris several years ago for the first time and walked into a shop, next thing you know, we're drinking champagne and, you know, the wife getting a leather jacket. And, well, the price is this, but, you know, and he says, well, I can do better. And, you know, you go back and forth. And you're right. It is, it's like sort of, I would say, meeting new family for the first time. You know, you want to have that interaction.
Well, I think, you know, it's odd. When you're a New Yorker, if you got the money, you come in, you buy it, you walk out. In Naples or in Italy in general, they want it to be an extended event.
Yes.
And you have to get used to that because I'm not a patient person. So I don't want a long harangue over something. That's what I want. I got other things to do, you know. But there you gotta lend yourself to it, you know.
So what was your job or your duties on the ship?
I was just a seaman first.
Okay. Any particular thing?
Yeah, I was in gunfire control, which on a warship, that's the whole essence of a warship. And it's interesting. You know, they had computers. Now this is, I don't know how many years ago, but they had a computer was half the size of this room. You know, what we have now that you can keep in your shirt pocket.
That's it.
This thing was a big thing like that, and all the men stood around it with earphones, and they had a little thing to put the information into the computer. Now we do it,
Yes.
you know, a few minutes. Then the guy gets information, what's the direction of the ship, what's the ship's speed, what's the weather, what's our destination. You know, they have a million questions, and all of that's put into the computer because computers back then were connected to gunfire control. When you fire an anti-aircraft shell at an airplane, it's moving at 300-400 miles an hour. You have to fire the shell way the hell in front so that it runs into it, you know. And the only way you can do that is by computer, because you have to know all the given facts, and then that generates advanced angles. And the idea you don't hit the airplane, it explodes in the vicinity, and that damages the airplane that you're firing at. The whole thing was, by today's standards, was totally primitive, but it was interesting to me. I wasn't an architect yet, but the idea of all these coordinated numbers appealed to me, you know.
Yeah, I know. I've seen there's a pair of binoculars. This is like another 5 years ago, that you put up to your, just like a pair of binoculars. You look through it, you pick out a object X amount of distance away. It could be a mile, 2 miles away. You select it. You press another button. The coordinates, the GPS coordinates, then go to a satellite. Then it goes back to the ship or wherever, who then controls all those missiles. And what's even more phenomenal about it, it takes an account for the change of the Earth relative to space. And you just you press the other buttons, and away goes the missiles, and it makes that little correction.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that
we
was so yours is primitive.
Yeah, well, we were just on the brink of missiles. They had missiles, but they didn't have the sophisticated system yet, you know.
Wow.
I was there, now this is 1950, you know. I was only 18, and it was all new to me, but I found it very interesting, you know.
Yeah. Gee. Was your whole service on that ship, the USS Albany?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
But we went all over the world and remote places, you know.
So you became a shellback?
I was a shellback.
Or you are? You're once you're a shellback, you're a shellback. Or was it a son of Neptune?
Well, you cross the equator.
Yes.
And you get beaten. You know, not.
Yeah.
If they didn't like the guy, they were much more serious about it. But you got hit in the behind, and but it was a big event.
Yes.
I'm a shellback.
Yeah, that's it. So what happens when you cross the international date line? Is that another?
I don't think they.
Okay.
See, the equator, you're going below half the Earth.
Yes.
It's kind of a dramatic thing.
Yes,
Well,
it is.
It was back then.
It still is now, I would think.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. So you did, was it 3 years in the Navy?
4.
4.
Yeah.
And then you got out, you went home to New York?
Yeah.
And what did you do when you got home?
Well, I rented a walk-up apartment, and I took an exam to get a scholarship to a private college, which was Cooper Union.
Yes.
You only got in there on the basis of an exam. So I passed it, and I became a student at night.
Okay.
And I studied there for years at night while I was working. I didn't get into architecture. I didn't know how to do anything particularly, but I like to draw, so drafting was a natural.
Yes.
And I got in an architect's office very early on as a junior, you know, and that was great because I was learning architecture at the very beginning, the very earliest. And that was the beginning of my career in that field.
Oh, that. So you spent a couple years, and during your daytime hours, you said you were working. Was that at
Yeah,
the
I worked
company?
for the city university,
Oh, okay.
which had about 10 colleges in the New York area, and they had projects going on at all of these. And in some cases, there were new campuses being built. So we who worked for City University had excellent firsthand exposure to architecture and its formative, and they had a lot of money because the state and the city was putting the big money into, building a major building is very
Right.
expensive. You're talking 35, $40 million. So
Yes.
when you're doing that all over the New York area, it's super big money, which gives a lot of impetus to everything that happens.
Wow. Then you got married, had some kids?
And our kids
No.
had a
Okay.
cat.
Okay. No.
Uh, well, I got married pretty early. I think I was married twice. My first marriage was in 1957. So I was 25, I think. And that didn't last too long. We just argued all the time.
Yeah.
Then I remarried in 60
Okay.
and stayed married for a lifetime,
Oh.
but happily.
Of course, yes. Yeah. And then you got your architecture degree, you said from Cooper Union?
Well, you have to take state board exams, and there's 7 parts, and you have to pass all of them with a, fairly high number, and you don't do it all at once. Out of the 7, you might pass 4, then you got to go back the next year for the other 3. So it stretches out. But eventually, when you pass them all, they award you a professional license.
And then you found yourself a good job to help out New York rebuild. I remember that being, talked about in the late 60s and then 70s, because I'm from New York, not from the city, but
Yeah.
for
Well,
you, upstate New York, for me, downstate New York.
Yeah. Well, education is always politically a very important thing, as it should be. So you were involved, or I was involved in education as a politically active and interesting field because the politicians wanted to be connected with the colleges. So it was all politically very cohesive.
And you were working on the World Trade Center.
Was I? I guess I was.
Yeah.
I've forgotten an awful lot of what I was involved with.
Yeah, you were telling Asa and myself earlier, during the drafting, and even when Melinda had stuck her head in about, being in there, just doing, parts of it,
Well,
and
with major projects, there are people who establish programs that work with the college in the educational field. For a major building, you have a book this thick of what is supposed to be in that building after it's turned over to the user.
Okay.
So it's what's called a detailed facilities program. And you're working with private architects, and there's a whole slew of people that are contributors to major projects. It unfolds in degrees of more and more significance. And finally, a building's being built, and you've been a part of it, you know. So it's a wonderful field. I've never been sorry I entered into it. You know.
Wow. So coming back to military, when you were at Newport, Rhode Island, which is a very nice place, um, anything stood out for you? Did you go to any
Well,
of the?
you're mistaking Newport with Newport Naval Training Station. That was a crummy Navy base, you know, where the hell north we all froze to death.
They didn't give you any liberty to go to any of
Yeah,
those
but
mansions?
back then, Newport's socially prominent, but we were stupid teenage kids. What did we know, you know? So if you walked through Newport, it didn't mean anything to you, you know.
Ah. So what did you really like about the Navy?
Well, I like to travel,
Okay.
you know, and it's quite fascinating. I went to places like Istanbul.
Mm.
Who the hell goes to Istanbul, you know?
Yep.
And of course, Newport, Rhode Island, and what's the Italian city below the boot? Sicily.
Sicily, yep.
Yeah. I remember walking around in Sicily, and there was some guy with a donkey cart, and it had big wheels on it, and it was kind of, now this is so many years ago, but to travel to places you've never seen, I enjoyed that.
So you've been on, I'm counting the continents, North America, South America, Europe, Asia. Did you get to Africa or
Yeah.
Antarctica?
Yeah, Sao Paulo is Africa.
Oh, I thought that was South America. Okay.
I think it's Africa.
Okay. So you're on like 4 or 5 continents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you go all over, and it's great. I used to say, you know, if I had to pay for all the travels, talking hundreds of thousands of bucks just to travel
Yes.
all over, you know. So to me, that was a great opportunity.
Was there anything you didn't like about the Navy?
Well, you know, you learn it's a dictatorship, as any military has to be. You know, it's sort of, if you think about it, I was never in combat, but if you're in combat, the guy next to you may be saving your life at some moment, or the other way around. So the military makes you aware of what war is to the young men who partake of it. You know, your life is questionable. That
Yes.
didn't happen to me, fortunately. But I didn't mind it. I met a lot of people. I didn't mind when you're in a lot of people. That never bothered me. I found interest in all people, so it worked out for me.
Wow.
But the military, you can't reason with anybody, you know. If you have the mistaken idea that what the captain wants to do, I don't think that's such a good idea. You can't go to the guy and say, you know, I've been thinking about what you plan to do. He'd say, what the hell are you talking about? This is an order. Get the hell out of here, you know. So you don't have any part in anything. I mean, I would have been a good strategist,
Yes.
but I wasn't assigned to do that. So you know, you're in a dictatorship.
Yep.
This is
what you
this
do.
is what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Ah,
But that didn't bother me. It was
okay. Any words of wisdom for some young people who are deciding to go
Well,
into, let's say, the Navy, or
you know,
in
for
particular?
young people, young guys who are unruly at that age, you know, 17, you could go in it with your parents' permission.
Yep.
You could go in that early. But 18 was pretty young. But I was never a troublemaker or anything. I conformed easily, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They brainwashed me pretty easily. I didn't realize that brainwashing would continue as a civilian.
Yep, I'm a product of parochial school, white shirt.
Wow. You had nuns?
Yes, I had nuns.
Wow. I bet they didn't fool around,
Nope, the knuckles are still in one piece, but a couple
Oh,
of times
with the ruler?
with the ruler. Yes, you learn discipline. You learn what to do and to do things right.
Yeah, but you see, looking back on it,
Mm-hmm.
you realize as much as you resented it at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
you look back on it and you realize you learned a lot of stuff early
Yes.
on, you know.
Yes. Yes, I did. So anything else you want to add, Mr. Hansson?
To your career?
No, not in general. You know,
Well,
any other comment?
we're not live now, are we?
No, this is
Yeah.
not live. This is, he can cut the tape back in the office.
Oh, are you recording anyway? Oh,
Yes.
oh, I see. So he can amend some of this onto other stuff.
Probably, if there's other stuff, or he can just take it right out.
Yeah. All right. So we'll be on TV.
We will be on TV, yes.
You know what this means? A big break on whatever their products are. They may give us both a new car.
They'll give you a new car. Yeah, this is on the local channel, and who knows, it may go national. May be picked up by other, hometown television stations.
Yeah, they may want us back.
That's right. We could do like Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks, the 2,000-year-old man.
Yeah.
I'll just set you up with all the questions, and you can just answer them.
Yeah. I think that would probably work.
I think it would work too. Yeah. You know.
You know, we represent the military, so there's a lot behind us here.
Yes. Yep.
Because you have to be see, we in private, we could find fault with the military, but if it's public, you better not do that.
No. Yeah. And there's only, I think, currently only about 1.4 million people are in the military, between, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast
Yeah.
Guard.
See, when you're in the Navy, everybody's bad-mouthing the military,
Mm-hmm.
but if you were being interviewed, you wouldn't take that tack.
No. I treat anybody who was or is in the military with total respect. I wish my dad sort of pushed me when I was in college for two reasons. One, I would have would have done the Air Force, would have gone to officers candidate or officers training school afterwards. But most importantly, my brother would have to salute me because I would be an officer, and he was a sergeant in the Army.
It's funny, the vanity at 18, I thought, in an ensign's uniform,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look really great. The women are going to love me.
That's it. Yes.
It didn't happen, but it could have.
Ah. Well, I want to say two things. Thank you for your service. It was muchly appreciated, and thank you very much for the interview. It's always appreciated.
Thank you.
Yes.